Happy Mother's Day. Proverbs 31, that's where we're at. Proverbs 31. What I'd like to do is read this with you. Whatever's the easiest way to kind of digest this, whether that's looking at it on your phone in the Bible or just listening to it, we're going to hear about this proverbial woman, Psalms 31. And I want you to be thinking about who she is and these different aspects of her. Listen to it with the aim that if you had to afterwards explain to someone what she's all about, could you do that? Listen to it with that kind of thought in mind. Proverbs 31, and this morning we're just going to stay right in this passage. Verse 10, an excellent wife who can find? She's far more precious than jewels. The heart of her husband trusts in her, and he will have no lack of gain. She does him good and not harm all the days of her life. She seeks wool and flax and works with willing hands. She's like the ships of the merchant. She brings her food from afar. She rises while it is yet night and provides food for household and portions for her maidens. She considers a field and buys it. With the fruit of her hands, she plants a vineyard. She dresses herself with strength and makes her arms strong. She perceives that her merchandise is profitable. Her lamp does not go out at night. She puts her hands to the distaff, and her hands hold the spindle. She opens her hands to the poor and reaches out her hands to the needy. She's not afraid of snow for her household, for all her household are clothed in scarlet. She makes bed coverings for herself. Her clothing is fine linen and purple. Her husband is known in the gates when he sits among the elders of the land. She makes linen garments and sells them. She delivers sashes to the merchant. Strength and dignity are her clothing, and she laughs at the time to come. She opens her mouth with wisdom, and the teaching of kindness is on her tongue. She looks well to the ways of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness. Her children rise up and call her blessed, her husband also, and he praises her. Many women have done excellently, but you surpass them all. Charm is deceitful, and beauty is vain, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Give her of the fruit of her hands, and let her works praise her in the gates. Again, I'll say Happy Mother's Day. We're all blessed to have you. Those who have been mothers for a long time, those who have been mothers for a short time. Thank you so much for everything you do. We're looking at Proverbs 31, the proverbial woman, and I have some observations for you. As I was looking through this Proverbs, I've gone through it several times. I know you have. One thing that I really appreciated this time is that the proverbial woman has no face. There's nothing wrong about doing a sermon looking at, Jesus' mother Mary. I've done that. There's many mothers that you could look at. There's nothing wrong. But it is refreshing sometimes to look at this woman who has no face. Listen, sisters, you know this. But this proverb, and it's the last Proverbs, right, that we have, it's not meant to shame you. It's not meant to shame you. It is the ideal Jewish woman that has been molded in the image of God, and she is praised for what she's doing. It's not meant to shame you. What you're not supposed to be doing in this life is looking at other women and feeling this big. There is a time to look at others, no doubt about it, as examples. But so many times that is dangerous whenever we're comparing ourselves to someone else. We get so caught up on the surface level things, don't we? I love it that she has no face. And you know what I was grinning about? When I was a kid, if you were to ask me what I thought about my mom, I would tell you she's the most beautiful woman in the world. And I'm not unique. But the thing is, there was no physical attraction there, obviously. That went over my head. I wasn't even thinking about that. You would ask me what I think about my mom. I could only see her as beautiful, not because of how she looked, but because of who she is. And that's what we're really talking about. Can you take a moment this morning and look at this proverb? It was actually meant for you. It was meant for the Jewish woman to see herself in it. And that's what's beautiful about it. All you mamas who have no faces, you're so beautiful. She exalts God. See, the flip side of this coin is that, and it's not just today, not only can we fall into the trap of comparing ourselves with others and then we end up feeling this big, there are some that not only do they not understand that, but they actually invite it. They want others to look at them. They want to be known for their beauty. They want to be known for their popularity. They want to be known for their status. And we always go to like the greatest of all, but I mean, even in your own circles, do you know that the temptation of that? You could say, even within my own circles, maybe I want to be honored, or I want to be known as something, or I want to be the go-to person, or I want to be the best looking one out of the group. That's why you have ugly friends. That's what we but it's bad. It's bad. Because what we're trying to do is we're trying to exalt ourselves. But the thing about this woman, this proverbial woman, and what is supposed to be implied is that she's exalting God in the life that she is living. You know, at the end there, it says in verse 29, many women have done excellently, but you surpass them all. And I think especially in the setting, that is, there's many women of the world, but the Jewish woman who put her faith in Jehovah God is the way that she is because God has made her that way. We are thinking about you today because you're not like the other mothers in the world. And even if other mothers are kind and gentle and these things we'll talk about, you do what you do in particular to the glory of God. Amen? And that makes you special to God. And you're teaching your children that life is not about them. You're reminding your husband that life is not about them. We don't have to be center of attention. We don't have to be praised. We're about living out a godly life. She is kind and wise. You know, as I was going through this, there are obviously different aspects that stood out more than others. Not to say that they're all not important, but she is kind and wise. In Isaiah, there's a passage whenever God was trying to get through to his people. And he said, would a woman forget her child and not have compassion for her? But even if she did, I wouldn't forget you. I like how it connects women with compassion, and in particular with how they care for their young. Do you remember whenever Paul wrote to the saints in Thessalonica, he talks about being a father, but he also talks being like a what? A mother. And in particular, he says, I was gentle among you like a nursing mother. So there can be a stereotype of men that men cannot be gentle, that they're not patient, and they're not kind, and obviously that would not be correct. Matter of fact, I really admire men. I like watching other men with their children. I love seeing other men with their children, men that know how to relax and know how to laugh. I love seeing how children are secure with their dads. I love men that are kind and gentle and patient. You know, just seeing a dad that it had been easy for him to kind of lose his handle and get on the kids, and you kind of just see them inwardly take a breath, and they're just really good. That's a beautiful thing. But there's also sometimes it's like, have you ever seen that a man that's like, it almost goes too far? Do you know what I mean by that? It can become almost feminine. Some of you shake your head, so I'm not going crazy. And I think that's what I'm saying is I'm not trying to make fun of anyone, but what I'm trying to point out is that because you associate women with gentleness. You associate them with kindness. I can see a guy, it's like he's almost acting like a woman with that, and that's a compliment to women. When I think about like mercy and grace in my home, my dad could be merciful because he could withhold the discipline. Thank you, Dad. But my mom could be the graceful one, giving me something I didn't deserve, right? I'll tell you, I feel like I learned grace more from my mom than I did my dad, though I needed them both. Mamas, those of you, for example, who have daughters, you are made in the image of God. That is, you have a role and you have a purpose to you. And that is very much about God. And we need that in the world. Woe to a world that does not experience grace and compassion and gentleness and patience. You're going to raise these young women to grace this world. You're also, those of you that have sons, we're made a little differently, as you know. And we can be go-getters, but sometimes we can roll over people. We can be intense. We can maybe be merciful but not understand grace. You're raising young men to be, as we would put it in our vernacular, balanced. You know, I think about homes where the dad may be brutal, and you worry about the kiddos. But woe to the home who doesn't have a mother that knows how to be gentle. This week, I was talking to a guy at Starbucks, and he brought up the Allen shooting. And he quickly brought up the discussion around guns. And we're getting into this discussion. And at one point he asked the question about a particular political party. He says, well, what are they proposing? How are they helping? Look at all this violence around everywhere. And what are they suggesting? And I realized for a moment that I needed to step back because he had a misunderstanding. I said, listen, I hope that you and I would agree that the government can't make people good. What happens in a lot of these shootings is evil. And to his credit, he did. He came off of that. I said, they can't make evil people good. Now, they can punish those that do evil, but they can't make them do good. And one of the things that I feel like that we're not considering, and I told him, and this is where now my role comes in, and we're friends. We can disagree on things, but we disagree in a good way. I said, this is now getting into the spiritual realm. We've got problems in our homes. A government can discipline your child for doing something bad, but it can't make the child good. A church, now we're getting more into the realm. But even then, God bless our elders who recently cared for enough to call some of his families aside to say, hey, can we help? But even the elders will say, but we can't be there 24/7. The best thing that we can do is try to share information and advice and counsel to help you. Mamas, do you know how many young kids are growing up because they're not in an atmosphere of peace and patience and love and gentleness? Do you know how many kids that we're going to have that won't be shooting people because of you? This guy I was talking to said some of these shootings because people are angry. I said, I can't imagine us shooting where someone's not angry. I don't even know what we're talking about. And it begs the question, what kind of home did you grow up in? You have something about you that can only be explained that it comes from above. You give and you give. Okay, so this is the number one thing. As I'm reading this through, I think the number one thought that I have when I first read back through this week is, man, she's got to be tired. This lady is worn out. Moms are like, I would laugh if I wasn't so tired, but yes. See what I mean? See? And that is true about mothers. They give and they give and they give and they give. They're burning the midnight oil, as we say. They're up in the morning. Now, again, ideal. But tell me, mamas, how many mornings did you get up? And let me say this, before dad was up. Or you didn't get to bed. How many late nights did you have? Your thoughts continually just self-absorbed. No, you're not like that. And this is just true of you. You're caring about your household. You're caring about the needs of others. You're caring about your children. Yes, Mom, it is true. Many times you're eating the cold meal. God bless you. Thank you. There's going to come a time whenever you're going to get old, and hopefully your godly children will return that favor, and they will eat the cold meals, and you'll get the warm meal. But you're doing that for them. You know what I love about Proverbs 31 is the beginning of it. The words of King Lemuel, an oracle that his mother taught him. What are you doing, my son? What are you doing, son of my womb? Do not give your strength to women, your ways to those who destroy kings. It is not for kings, O Lemuel. It is not for kings to drink wine, or for rulers to take strong drink, lest they drink and forget what has been decreed and pervert the rights of all the afflicted. Give strong drink to the one who's perishing, and wine to those in bitter distress. Let them drink and forget their poverty, and remember their misery no more. Open your mouth for the mute, for the rights of all who were destitute. Open your mouth, judge righteously, defend the rights of the poor and needy. This king remembers the words of his mother, and he honors her. This is what my mom taught me. Let me tell you, not only does she give and she give herself, but she gives the hard counsel. Her boys and girls, it's not like, oh, they can't do anything wrong in my eyes. No, you could, and you're not going to. You want to know why? Because I'm going to give it to you straight. Didn't you learn from me that it's not all about what I wanted and what I needed? Did I not pour myself out for those in need? So what happens, son, whenever you get into a position of power or authority? Whenever you're somebody, what will you do? Will you feed the flesh? Will it be about women and booze? See, there's nothing new. There's nothing new, is there? Nothing new. Is that what it's going to be about? Rather, learn from me and take this position and give and give and give to those who maybe sometimes can't feed themselves. And so that's why, brethren, she is to be praised. And I want to make this clear. I think this is totally right this morning to talk about this, because the Holy Spirit is behind this. And let me read this again. Verse 28. Her children rise up and call her blessed, her husband also, and he praises her. Many women have done excellently, but you surpass them all. Charm is deceitful and beauty is vain, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Give her the fruit of her hands, and let her works praise her in the gates. And we're doing that this morning. Now we are ultimately giving tribute to God, because he molds you into who you are. That doesn't go over our heads. Without God, you are like the rest of us men, and you have fallen short. And we know that as a wife and as a mother, that you don't always do it perfectly. Thank you for your grace, because we don't always do it perfectly. Again, this is ideal. Yet, you are known in particular for giving and giving and giving. You have a special place in our hearts. You are to be acknowledged, and you are not a birthing person. You are our mother. And we will always see you as God sees you. Our mothers. And guess what? With us, you do have a face. And you only have one face. I only have one face of a mother. And you only have one mother. And you knew her whenever she was young and when her skin was a little tighter. You knew her years later whenever you stressed her out and she got some wrinkles. And they're the most beautiful wrinkles in the world, because she got those from worrying about you. And her eyes have been watching you all those years in the most beautiful eyes you've ever seen, because no other two eyes ever looked at you the same. They couldn't. The woman who raised you sees you like no one else does. And we love you and we praise you. And may God bless you. Thank you for everything you do. There are many wonderful women in the world, but Mom, you excel them all. God bless you as you continue to serve Him. If you need to respond to the gospel, do so as together we stand and we sing.